Before we start on the game of blackjack, I want to take you through what we've done up until now as far as data types and program structure goes. Because when we do the game of blackjack, I'm going to be introducing quite a few new methods to you and a few new data types to you, which I don't want to just have you copy my code. I want you to actually understand what is going on. So to begin with, and this is not code that I'm writing, this is just instructions on the screen. So far we've looked at import random. And I stated that that was a library file. So if we look down here, we've got all of our files. Random is one of them. It's pre-written code that you include in your program. You only ever use it the once per file. Okay, so if we have one or more files and you can create your own files, then it can appear at the top of each file, and it only ever appears once. So it's like saying, go and get me that file and put all of that code in this file and I'll start typing at the end. So that's what the import random does. We have also seen data types, and the data types that we've seen so far are integers, which are whole numbers. We've seen floats, which are decimal numbers. We've seen booleans, which are either true or false. And some of you have seen truth tables. And we have seen strings. Now I'm going to separate strings just a little bit from that lot. We've seen strings. Now, as far as programming statements go, we've seen a very simple while loop, and we've used either while is true, or we've used a while with a condition which evaluates to either true or false. We've seen that. We have seen if statements, and we have seen the basic if, and I'm just going to type here condition. I'm not even going to write a condition because I want you to understand what that word is. We've seen a condition and an else statement. So we've seen that basic structure where we've got an if, condition and an else. The true bit, and what happens if it's false, the false bit. We've also seen that indentation is crucially important with these. We have also seen if statements in this format: if some condition, true bit, and an elif also with a condition, and that also works out to be the true bit of this statement. And we can have multiple elifs, but each must have a condition, and the statement that follows is only if it's true. And finally we've got an else with no condition, and that operates the false bit from all of those. So at the moment pretty much everything you see on the screen is what we've learned. We have also seen, and this is the final part, we've seen a print statement where we've been able to add strings together with a plus symbol. We've seen a print statement where we can just add two numbers together, and these are variable names A and B. We've seen variables too, and we've seen the fact that if we need to join a string and an integer, we don't use the plus symbol, we use the comma. And the last thing I showed you in the lesson with the craps game was a new kind of print statement whereby we had some form of statement, and then we had some curly brackets starting at 0 and then going to 1 and 2 and 3 and so on, with dot format and then the variables, or even an equation inside brackets. So that's what we've seen at the moment. The only thing I sort of hesitated on is strings. We know what strings are, we can see what strings are. We've also seen characters, which in Python strings and characters are the same thing, but that's not true in other languages, if you remember. But strings can do a lot more. These we call simple types. Okay, they are simple because they just hold one thing, where strings are a bit more complex. And we can see that because it actually has, well, a string is made up of a complex array of characters. But we can perform different things on these depending on the string. We can use things like dot upper, so we can use functions on the string, so that would convert all of those characters into uppercase, or we can use dot lower. And in fact we can use quite a few things with strings, and we can also sort of get at each and every single character of the string, and this is called string handling, and it is a very large area of Python and other languages, string handling, and is a topic in its own right, and we shall be using a little bit of that in our game. But we will also be using some new data types which I want to show you. So these are simple types because we can't do anything with them. There is no integer dot lower or float dot lower. There's no function at the end of it, and there's no way we can get to, so for example, if I'm saying for a float, if I was looking at 3.14159, there is no way I can just pick out the 5 by saying, oh, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 character along. Can't do that, but we can do that with a string. So strings are a little bit more complex than these, which are simple types. Booleans are just true or false. There's nothing else to do with them. And finally, we've seen a very simple loop. We're going to see more loops. These loops are special. There are quite a few loops in other languages, but basically only 2 loops in Python. So I need to teach you different kind of loops from different languages and look at different kind of loops. They will appear in your exam. So that's a sort of brief resume of what we've done so far.